today with Pete and Ian. I'm going to allow them to go and introduce themselves a little bit more, tell you about why this is going to be one of the best uses of your time today. The conversation that is about to unfold, I can guarantee is going to be something that you're going to want to pay attention to. We're going to talk about connection. We're going to be talking about what is going on in our world right now and how can we move forward both mentally, professionally. How can we do more together? You know, what do we need to be focused on moving forward? I mean, I can come at that in a marketing and business angle as well, but it's not just about marketing and business. Very honored to have this conversation. Pete and Ian, right out of the gates, to just give a little bit of value, what is something that's in your heart and in your mind to share with viewers listening? You know, we're all seeing the news right now. We've been rattled by a lot of change with COVID, economic changes. It's on a global scale. You know, households have changed completely since we're now dealing with homeschooling and other things, virtual jobs and job loss. I don't mean to paint a picture of doom and gloom, because there's a lot of incredible innovation, relationship happening in the world. There's a lot of goodness that's coming out of this time. But what do you have to share based on conversations you've had, books you've read, podcasts you've listened to? What's a nugget we can give people right out of the gates? What are you thinking about?
Mr. Jones, you want to start?
Oh, Mr. Bombaci, you're far too kind. Such a gentleman, such a gentleman. Well, for me, starting right off, I wanted to thank you, Amber and Pete. I've been looking forward to this for a long time, of having this opportunity to get together and as you said, Amber, see where this unfolds and where it goes. But right out of the gate, I'm going to sound probably a little bit corny and maybe showing a bit of my age, but you know, we're just missing love in the world. If you go back to the to the 60s and the peace and the happy face and the simpler times that they were looking for back then, my God, what have we not learned anything? Fast forward, you know, at 60 years on, and we still are missing love in the world. And I think that's why I just love Pete so much, because of what he brings and what he's been doing in this Genwell project. And when you hear the story of our lives on how we separate for 12, 13 years, come back together, like we just saw each other 10 minutes ago, separate for another 12 to 13 years and come back again, like, my God, I just saw you last week. It shows you that it's possible and it can happen. But my God, we've lost our way.
I agree.
Yeah, beautiful words, Ian. And I would, along the same lines, and Amber, you talked about hope. I think the silver lining for me, you know, and I know a lot of people are starting to speak about the silver linings, is the fact that we're all becoming much more conscious about the need for each other, and the fact that we are in this together. And it is about human connection. And that the single largest thing that people are missing now, you know, up to 10 weeks ago, and we can get into a little more about what the Genwell Project is, a human connection movement, but up till 10 weeks ago, most people didn't have the time. They were too distracted, pressure-filled, fast-paced world. And when I was trying to share with them, hey, did you know that human connection makes you happier, healthier, improves your mental and physical health, it can make you live longer, most people wouldn't take the time to actually hear the message. And here we are waking up 10 weeks later to the awareness of, oh my gosh, I really do miss my friends. I miss my family. I miss those people at my office around the water cooler and the coffee machine. I even miss the barista. And all those relationships, by research now validated, you know, coming out over the last couple decades, really reinforces that we need each other. And I think it's a bit of a challenging time when we were going through that really fast-paced, distracted, and pressure-filled world. But the enlightenment that I think we will go through, and trust me, it is not going to happen without a lot of pain and suffering as we all go through this, whether it's health issues, whether it's family, COVID issues, financial pressures. But I truly do believe we can get to the other side of this if we come together as a society. We see the struggles that we're having right now beyond COVID-19, and no different whether it's about health and happiness or whether it's about empathy and compassion. It all comes from spending more time together and understanding the challenges that we all face, because life ain't easy. And the best medicine for people is people.
I am already loving this conversation. So I love what you had to say about togetherness. And, you know, while you two are speaking, I'm thinking, what's the one thing I really want to say right now? And I can tell you what's happening in a lot of the conversations that I'm having right now. who you choose to align yourself with moving forward is going to be really important. For sure, we can do more together than we can alone. It is about collaboration. It's not just the Amber Show. The whole reason that the Elevate series came right when COVID hit, I felt this calling to just lead. It wasn't about me, and I was thinking, what can I do? What can I do? Well, I know a lot about live streaming. Okay, who do I know? Who do I know? I know a ton of amazing people. Okay, I'll put those together. I sent out a few invites to people saying, hey, I'm thinking about this crazy idea of going live. I'll call it the Elevate series. Would you want to do it with me? They said yes. And the next thing you know, weeks and weeks and weeks, dozens of interviews, incredible influence, lives impacted. And not once did I say, can you sign up for my email list or go check out my services? Like, it wasn't about that. It's about collaboration, and who you choose to align yourself with moving forward is a big part of that. But I'm going to cheat, and I'm going to give you a second one that's also very top of mind for me right now. And it's a conversation that I'm having a lot right now with a strategic partner of mine, dear friend, colleague, somebody I greatly admire, respect, and trust. His name is Isaac Stegman. And Isaac is really going through this introspective process in his company. And he has great influence. He's attracted in unbelievable leaders. And what the conversation is in that organization right now, it's all about taking a stand. What do you want to take a stand for right now? Before all of this happened, you saw some people taking a stand, but it still felt a little bit like a minority. It was scary to take a stand. It was hard to take a stand. But now that time where we could sit on the sidelines is over. Now is the time to decide what you want to take a stand for in your life. What do you really believe in? What do you want to push forward? And who are you going to align yourself with so that you're doing more good in the world? Like, that's what I'm about right now. That's the conversations that I'm having over and over again. And I'm so grateful to Ian for introducing me to Pete so we could come together. And it's going to be an incredible conversation. So guys, I wonder if you can now take a step back and then let us know a little bit more about your journey individually, maybe how you first met, and then we'll circle back around into the next conversation topic.
Okay, that's great. Do you mind, Pete, if I jump in here?
Go for it.
Because I think it works well in how we connected. I'm my whole background is in hospitality, dating back to, I'm going to date myself for sure now, but back to 1984 in Toronto was my first job. Ironically, that's where I met Pete, but I stepped away, went to the West Coast, and came back before I met Pete. But I've been in the hotel business long time. Worked in 4 different continents, 7 different countries across 14 different cities. So it's been an amazing journey. But the most important thing that I've learned in that journey, I've been in different cultures, different religions, different languages, different countries, completely different backgrounds and values that I grew up from. And the incredible journey that has taught me through all of it is that, and it goes back to what I started with, we all want to be loved. We all want to feel respected. We all want to feel valued. Doesn't matter what language is in. Doesn't matter what religion you have to be followed or aligning with. We want to be loved. We want to be respected. We want to be valued. And I think that's probably, besides what I've loved about living around the world, what I've taken out of my hospitality journey has been that. And Pete and I met in, I think it was 1994, 95, around there. I was managing a restaurant and a bar in Toronto. And Pete was a rep with a wine company. And, as any sales type of relationship goes, there's give and take, there's back and forth. But I think something different beyond that, like you talked about, Amber, it wasn't about the emails, it wasn't about the contacts. It very quickly moved beyond, oh, here's Pete, the salesman, what is he trying to pitch me? To, oh, here's Pete, thank goodness, where have you been? Nice to see you again. Hey, did you see how the Leafs are doing? Or this is happening, or that's happening. And the relationship grew as a symbiotic friendship more than anything else. And then from that, obviously business also flourishes, but going back to what we said, that's where people need people. I said at the beginning about fast forwarding and jumping ahead. So that was 94, 95. Then the next place I ran into Pete. You'll never believe it. I'm managing a hotel in Moscow. I'm upstairs on the mezzanine level looking down, and I look down at this person and I think, I know this person. And I'm in Moscow. How would I know anybody in Moscow? I hadn't been there very long. And Pete also, ironically, at the same time was looking up and saying, I think I know that guy. Anyway, long story short, we run into each other in the lobby, and he was there with Team Canada because they were there on the World Cup Hockey Championship. And I had been able to get Team Canada to stay in our hotel. And so that's how we, in the middle of Moscow, two Toronto boys run into each other. And now here we are, fast forward for another 13 years. And Amber, I'd connected with you and was listening to one of your Elevate series with another colleague here in town in Calgary. And immediately I thought, who I need to connect you with is Pete Bombaci, because what he's doing is what you're all about and what we're all about. And that's what an amazing journey from 94 to 2006 to 2020. That's our journey. That's how we know each other. My whole background's about hotels, as I said, traveling around the world. But it's amazing how every time Pete and I connect, it's like we just saw each other last week.
I love that.
Yeah, Ian, I couldn't agree with you more, my friend. What I would say is from the minute we started doing business together, it was never about a transactional relationship. It was always about, hey, how are you doing? What's going on with you? How's the business? How can I help? Hey, I have. Yeah, and I'm. It's funny, Amber, and I'm sure the word networking for me is so transactional versus building relationships.
Yeah, same.
And yet I hear a lot of people talk about, hey, I need to network. You need to network. You need to get out there. And what I think was really inspiring about our relationship, Ian, was from the minute both you and Dawn, and we talked about Dawn when we had a chance to reconnect, which is amazing that literally a week ago, or now it's 3 weeks ago, I guess, we got on Zoom or whatever platform we were on. And the reality is we've all now been given permission to connect with people virtually. Yeah. Because up until now, I respected Ian so much as I would say, oh, well, hopefully we'll get a chance to see each other again someday, because I would have only put value in our relationship by getting together for a beer or a cup of coffee. But we've all been given the permission to now use digital technology because it is the best option. And when we got on the Skype call or Zoom or whatever it was 3 weeks ago, guess what? It was like we were just leaving Moscow last week and we were having a great conversation and what's going on and how the kids. And I think that's the amazing thing that happens when you build relationships. And so it's been a long journey with Ian, and certainly running into him in a hotel in Moscow and then going to the championship hockey game, which, by the way, Team Canada won, and we got to celebrate with them. And it was a pretty incredible experience, as Ian and I were reflecting on last time we chatted. But Amber, to give you a little more of my background, I spent 20 years, as Ian touched on, in the hospitality and beverage alcohol industry. Then I went over and ran Movember. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the men's health charity, largest men's health movement globally. I think they're still in 22 countries around the world, but I oversaw the Canadian campaign, raising the consciousness about the importance of men's health, and raised $142 million over 5 years for men's health. And what I recognize now, looking back at both that job and when I was in the beverage alcohol industry, sales, marketing, all the different roles, is that I love people. And really people, when you see people come together, whether it's to celebrate, whether it's about a common cause, whether it's to do good, whether it's about laughing at each other's mustaches, that's when people have the biggest smiles on their faces, even our conversation right now. And so seeing that and then doing a little more research, which has really come out in the last decade or two, you start to realize, oh my gosh, the research is very clear that spending time with other people and the relationships you build is the single largest thing that makes you happy. It reduces anxiety and depression, strengthens your immune system and your self-confidence, increases your empathy and compassion. Could we use a little bit more of that in the world today? And can increase your chances of living longer by up to 50%. And I thought to myself, wow, how come nobody knows this? And the reality is most of us don't know this because when we grew up, most of us had kids on the street and our parents were washing cars and cutting the grass. We don't do that anymore because our days are longer, more distracted, more pressure filled until 10 weeks ago. And now it's all changing. But in 2016, I launched the GenWell Project, and the GenWell Project is a human connection movement. And our mission is truly just to remind people of all that information, how important human connection is to our health and happiness, and more importantly, to get us to take action. Because we knew up until 10 weeks ago that if you didn't put it into your calendar, it didn't happen. And even then, you'd probably blow off a few meetings when you had it in your calendar, just because we were just all overwhelmed. And what we all need to hear, and what we're all becoming much more conscious of right now, is the importance of human connection in our lives. And it is about making us happy. It is about making us healthier, both mentally and physically. And it is about getting through life with the greatest resilience possible, so that we can celebrate the times that we have to cherish. And we also can get through the tougher times in the best way possible.
I love that creating personal connection is something that more and more people are talking about right now. I'm in the middle of writing a book right now, and it's called, the working title is Elevate Every Experience, Develop Personal Connection to Scale Your Influence. And you know, when a lot of people sit down to write a book, it's like, oh, I should write a book. It makes sense to write a book. And yeah, I want to write a book, but then you actually have to do the job of writing the book. And then it's really hard. At least that was my experience. I actually hired a writing partner, Katie, and, you know, because I'm busy and I didn't want to use that as an excuse, right? I think I have something to say and I need to get it out, and I just need somebody to hold me accountable to that. And I remember in the very beginning of this process, it was very hard. And I had some resistance, which surprised me, because I'm usually like all into things and I lean into anything that makes me uncomfortable, because the only way through it is through it. And I want to overcome those feelings so I can just live my potential. It's just who I am, or who I am now anyway, who I choose to be. So we're in the process of writing this book, and the turning point for me was really when Katie turned to me on a call one day and she asked me to define connection. And now this is actually more of a business book. So then she asked me to define marketing, define sales, define operations, define influence. And it's like any opportunity that you have to really face yourself. It's hard work, but it's the best. I mean, it's just the best work when you get through it on the other side. And what I personally realized, and Pete, I'd love your feedback on this. For me, you know, connection is really, it's an exchange of a shared sought after value. That's basically what I came up with. Like, you might have a value for love, Ian, and I have a value of love. And now the connection is when we can meet on that level and we can exchange that sought after value. That's the most moment of connection for me. And then I thought, well, but that's not enough. Like, when you're writing a book, you really have to peel back that onion and think, well, how do you get to the point where you know your values, or what does it take in order for you to create a personal connection with somebody? And I thought, well, you really have to be open to connection, right? If I'm closed, if I'm guarded, if I don't trust people, then I'm not going to feel that level of personal connection. Well, then what does it take for you to be open, you know? And I started going through this process. And for me, I could pin it all the way back to my 16-year-old self, when I had this rock bottom moment. Anyway, that doesn't matter for the purpose of the story. I had a rock bottom moment. And in that moment, I made a choice. I faced myself and I thought, who do I want to be? And how do I want to show up in this world? And only when I decided, what kind of person would I have to be proud of myself? That was the key for me. I started to, decision by decision, day by day, create this identity, somebody that I would be proud to be, which is, I think, where the values come into place. Then all of a sudden, because you're proud, you have this level of transparency and openness and love. You're open to connection. So now, pretty much in any environment, no matter where I am, when I'm exchanging with anybody, I'm like looking for those moments, their values. And then that's where I'm already creating these moments of connection, because I'm open to it. I'm present in the moment. And oh my gosh, almost every moment of my day is pure freaking magic. It's unbelievable what happens when you go through this process. Now, that's what my book is about. But Pete, I'd love to know where that stands in the spectrum of what you found in your work of human connection.
Yeah, and I think, for the most part, when I speak about human connection, I speak about the benefits to the individual versus that relationship that you just described. But in my own experience, here's what I would say is that we all have many different types of connection. When I play hockey quite often with some buds, and those relationships in many cases are about hockey and about the boys and getting together. But those deeper relationships, which are ones that fulfill us in different ways, really for me come down to trust. And that trust usually comes through those meaningful moments, like when you were 16, or any of the struggles that we go through in life, when you need somebody to be there for you, and you look around to see who are the people that are going to be there for you. And when you ask, when you can pick up the phone or you can have a coffee or whatever, and somebody says, yeah, I'm right there for you. Tell me when you need me. Where do you need me? Let's go have a chat. Those relationships are built with trust and time, in my opinion. You don't get those deep relationships unless you are vulnerable, you've spent time together, and then you start to build that trusting relationship where you can say, hey, Ian, you know what? I'm having a really crappy day today. I wonder, would you mind spending 30 minutes just to talk me through, how I'm feeling? And I think, a lot, again, I go back to where we were 10 weeks ago. And I think a lot of us were ignoring some of the simple things that we could all do because we were caught up in the pace, the pressure, and the distraction. And I think now, coming out of it, we will become more conscious of the things that do build those relationships that you're speaking of, because without it, we'll continue to face some of the same crises. And even with an understanding of those relationships, I think the breadth of challenges that we will face moving forward, we're going to need those just to even stay even keeled if we can. And then hopefully we can thrive as we build them and build that confidence and that trust and that willingness to be vulnerable with each other. Because I think we've got some challenging times ahead.
Ian, I want to switch it over to you for a second, because I will never forget my first conversation with Ian Jones. Ian is opening up a wine and coffee shop, but it's really about the community. And it was exhilarating, our conversation. It activated something in me. We were brainstorming how you get the community involved, how you get them to share the word, how do you get them to want to spend more time in this local coffee wine shop. And in order to have a successful business like that, it comes back to the human connection. It comes back to the relationships. And so I'm curious, like, as we're having this conversation in personal connection, Ian, what are some of the things coming up for you? How do you see that applying into your business, whether with your newest venture or just even in the hospitality industry?
Well, it's very interesting, especially during these times, because so often we live behind emotional masks. We have a fear or insecurities, or I talk often about social media imposters, because that's a snapshot in time, and everybody looks at it and says, isn't that
my goodness, yeah,
incredible? And I think none of us know what's behind all that. But the even harder time we're in now is we're actually living behind physical masks. We're wearing them over our face. And it's interesting. It dawned on me the other day when I was out doing some shopping, and had this mask on, and a lady said something, and I kind of had a smirk or a chuckle, and she looked at me twice, and I think, you don't know what my reaction is. And so
I know, isn't that the worst? I can't stand that part of it.
Not only we've lived and we continue to live our lives with these emotional masks, now we have physical masks. And Pete touched on something, as did you, Amber, very much. What Pete touched on, this trust aspect, and you on this transparency aspect. And I think here's a little tidbit for you, Pete. You can take this note down. I think this would be great for the GenWell project. My new tagline is drop our fences. Pete and I chatted about this, when we reconnected 3 weeks ago. But I think, why are we building 6-foot fences in our backyard or 8-foot fences in our backyard? If I think back to, like I alluded to at the beginning, the 60s and 70s, we had 3 feet little fences. We cut our yard. We sat and chatted with our neighbors in the backyard. about the weather, about sports, about politics, about all sorts of things. There was a sense of community. And Amber, to your conversation, and it's kind of what I've been chatting about a little bit in the community I'm living in right now, before I actually launch into this coffee and wine bar, is trying to get to know our community better, even before, put business aside. Why do we have all these fences? Why are we blocking everybody out? Whether it's physically with a mask, whether it's emotionally, we hide behind so many insecurities, or now with our 6-foot fences that we hired so we don't even know our neighbors. During these COVID times, we've been obviously like everyone else. That's why you can't find flour in a grocery store. We've been doing a tremendous amount of baking. My daughter and I and my wife, we've been making cookies and muffins, and my wife has mastered a sourdough bread, and it's phenomenal.
Sounds great.
But what do you do with all these cookies and muffins and bread? You can't eat them all, or I'm never going to fit out the door when I'm allowed to get out the door. So we've been, passing it to the neighbors and things like that. And it really dawned on me when my daughter had 4 little cookies in a Ziploc bag, and she could just reach over the fence and was holding the fence there. And I was looking through the little slit in the wooden boards to our neighbor, and I saw her look over, and she says, "Are those cookies I see?" And I said, "Yes." And so she came over and took them. And it was, you have these aha moments. And for me, it was one of those aha moments saying, what are we doing? Why do we have these 6-foot fences? Bring down our fences. Let's get to know our community. Let's get to know each other. Again, that's why I said, Pete, for yourself and Genwell Genwell Project, that talk about a better human connection. You now physically can see that person. And it's, for me, going back to your question, Amber, and about this coffee and wine bar, it's all about connecting with our community and who is a community. How could we get to know each other? When we're going out for walks with our dog, are we just walking? Or are we taking a moment to say, hi, how are you? Good afternoon. Chat with somebody doing some gardening, chat with someone over a fence, chat with other people with their dogs. What is that way of having that connection, that human connection? And how can we all do a little bit better at making it? And that's really where I am in the early stages. I really want to understand the community before I put a coat of paint on the wall, because who am I to say what is the right color paint to put on the wall? Let's make this a community spot.
Something that I talk a lot about is how to connect virtually. One thing that I want to bring this into those of you viewing right now, and just say that I'm really happy that you're here. I see that you're here. My team is in the chat box right now, welcoming you, engaging with you, and sharing teaching points and websites and that sort of thing. But if you do have a question for us that you would like us to answer live, please put that in the comments below. What I was going to ask you, though, is to tag 3 people that you would like to invite to be a part of this live stream discussion. Even if you're inviting them back into the replay, this is a way of initiating connection with people. And if that's the theme of what we're talking about here, this is a good excuse for you to connect with some colleagues or some friends or some family members that you can now share in this discussion, and it's going to deepen your relationship by extension of you both watching this live stream. So please tag a few people. Virtually, though, people are kind of floundering, finding their way a little bit on how do I create this connection virtually. A lot of people aren't used to it. And so something that I am really advocating for right now is, number 1, do as much video as you can. And that includes live streaming like this, but also even pre-recorded video, speaking on stages, like on online stages such as podcasts, or doing small trainings and workshops, even into like small masterminds or small groups, associations, that sort of thing. Speaking is really where the connection is going to happen, of course. But when you are on a digital stage like this, people still have reservations because they don't understand it. They're not used to it. They're not comfortable with it. And therefore, they're having a harder time connecting with people through this medium. And I would just encourage all of you to just be yourselves as much as you possibly can. Like, drop the fact that there's a lens that you're talking through right now. Like, think beyond the lens, especially if you're doing like a pre-recorded video for YouTube, and just imagine the people on the other end, or one person on the other end, somebody that just You just love hanging out with this person. It could be a client or a prospect or a friend or a neighbor, Ian, somebody that you can just really get that emotion flowing inside of your body, get that energy flowing. And then your job is really to project that outward through the camera lens onto people on the other side. Like right now, I'm looking at a digital flat screen and I see Ian and Pete. But I'm also thinking about the people that are experiencing this on the other end, whether you're watching us through YouTube or you're on Facebook or LinkedIn, no matter what area of the world you're in, right? I have a responsibility, but an opportunity to connect with you, the viewer, even in a discussion like this. So part of it is just, again, getting yourself open, getting that energy flowing, being present, and really pushing through that digital screen. I talk to clients sometimes about this concept of Elevate 20, that when you are in an online platform like this, a lot of times people are viewing you at a 20% deficit because of all the technology getting in the way, as opposed to if we were having the same conversation face to face in a coffee shop, you would be feeling me at my normal level. But through all this technology madness, you're actually seeing me probably somewhere down here. And that's not as exciting. So when you're getting ready to record or go into an environment like this, I want you to crank that up even beyond what you think feels natural or comfortable to you at first. I'm not suggesting you're clown-like, but I am suggesting you elevate that energy and you push that through when you're engaging with anybody, whether you're on a sales conversation, just one-on-one, you're recording a video, or here again, even through social media. That's something that I felt compelled to share with people so that they can feel connection with that audience in a virtual world. It's absolutely possible.
It's interesting you talk about that, Amber. Have you frozen?
She was just getting to the crescendo there. Go, Ian. Take it away.
Anyways,
she'll come back.
Not sure if anybody can still hear us, but it's interesting she touched on that about the energy, because I was running a hotel in Kuala Lumpur and we had a nightclub and we were having a Queen, one of those Queen lookalike bands, and they were doing an interview with the local press. And I watched the Freddie Mercury type of person. He was behind the screen before he had been invited out to come onto camera. And I was just watching him and he was running on the spot. He was running on the spot. He was moving his arms around. I'm thinking, what the heck is this guy doing? Why is he being like this? Anyways, he came out on stage, and the reason he did it, I spoke to him later, is to get energy, to get everything flowing. He wanted to get into the mood because he's Freddie Mercury. He can't come walking out on stage and say, hi, I'm Freddie Mercury. He just got this, his heart rate was pumping, he was breathing, and he was getting into character. And so to your point, Amber, about becoming animated and things like this, because if you're in a coffee shop or over a beer, you're going to be talking, your hands, you're moving around, there's energy. But people do get, whether it's nervous or whether it's I just don't know what to do when there's that camera in front of them. But
and I literally lost the person. And I'm just literally laughing as you came back on. I could see you're on your phone. You opened up your computer again. And it's like, okay, how am I going to make this look really smooth? Because I just need to get this on. And then I pressed the wrong button and I just disconnected. So I know exactly what just happened. And welcome to the modern world of communication, eh?
I know. And you know what the real lesson here is? Don't freak out. Like technology, everybody's facing technology issues right now. And the most important thing that I've learned through experience is just be cool, calm, move forward to the next thing. If that doesn't work, move forward to the next thing. There's always the solution. You'll always figure it out. So thank you for your patience, everybody. But Ian, I was really looking, it was like a cliffhanger. So you were, please finish. Go ahead. You have the floor.
I'm not sure how much you heard. Where did you lose me?
I was hearing about not needing to be clown-like Amber said, and then that's when things went sideways.
Oh, okay. No, I was talking about how you were talking about elevating and raising the energy level. When I was managing a hotel in Kuala Lumpur, I was saying, and we were interviewing a band that was going to be playing in our hotel that was a Queen cover band. And I was watching behind the curtain, the Freddie Mercury lookalike, and he was about to be called out and being interviewed on TV. And I was watching him. He was running on the spot. He was jumping up and down. He was moving his arms. I'm looking at this guy thinking, what is he doing? And he came out and he did his bit. And then later I asked him, I said, what were you doing behind the screen prior to coming out? He said, it was about getting my energy levels up, getting my heartbeat up, I was breathing. He said, you can't come strolling out and say, oh, I'm Freddie Mercury. That's not Freddie Mercury. And so he just got himself, his heart beating. He came out and he was now in character. And that's the same thing. What I was saying is, if we're out in a bar or in a coffee shop and we're having a conversation, we're going to be animated. We're going to be talking. We're going to be things happening around us, as opposed to, and it is new for all of us. It's like speaking in front of a lot of people. The first few times you do it, you're very nervous until you've done it 100 times, and then it comes naturally. Well, how many times have we done live streaming? How many times have we done Zoom? Well, over the last 10 weeks, a lot more than I had in my prior 50 years. So, you're getting better at it. You're getting more comfortable with it. But you're right, Amber. It's about, you actually want to be coming through the camera. You want to be animated. You want to be feeling it, so that you from this screen can actually get a sense of who I am and what I'm trying to deliver.
Yeah, I think, even the progress, which, all the emotional stuff and energizing yourself to do it. But even this step of not looking like this and saying, hey, so Amber, how you doing? Ian, it's been really good. Just learning those simple things of looking into the camera. Yes, it's a challenge to look, and I love your idea of visualizing the audience that you're speaking to. But we're all going to get more comfortable with this, whether it's on a personal level or whether it's on a business level, a presentation level. The key is, hey, get comfortable, because looks like we're going to be doing this for a while, and getting to know how to look, how to engage. I'm lucky. I've got Italian roots, so I'm always this is my biggest problem, is my hands go in front of the screen and people are like, hey man, put your hands down. So,
I use my hands a lot.
I love the energy of doing this. And I will say that I think I feel pretty comfortable on video. And my challenge was actually looking in the camera instead of always looking at the person who I was talking to, because I want to connect. I want to see you. I want to see Amber's response. I want to see you smile. I want to see you laugh or chuckle or shrug your shoulder, whatever it is. That's what connection is all about.
See, what I've been doing, if you've observed it, those of you watching, when Pete is talking, I'm actually looking up because the Zoom screen is up here. Ian is now down here. It used to be reverse of that before our issues. And yet every time that I'm in response, I try to look straight into the camera at the viewer. So that way I can still connect with Pete. I can still connect with Ian, but ultimately I want to connect with you, the person that's not even in the Zoom room, because ultimately we're here to serve you. This isn't about us. We obviously want to share our wisdom, our experience with you, anything that we can do to help you cope, help you manage your stress, which is why this conversation is so important today, because if you can get into a mindset of being in service to others, the person that you're in front of, that's the most important person in the world in that moment, is the person that you're in front of. And if you are in service to them, if you are present to them, if you are truly giving to them, you're open to them, what you are going to receive in return here in your heart is going to have wonderful effects in the rest of your body. I mean, honestly, every day I just feel like this energy. It's almost an overabundance of energy. I actually have to learn how to calm down sometimes, because the energy is so magnificent that it can really burn me out toward the end of the day, even though it's amazing energy. But it can feed you. It can calm you down. It can reduce inflammation. Pete, I'm not trying to tell you about your book for you. I'm just agreeing with you.
Well, I think, Amber, and I was going to say this, when you described what the process that you went through in your head to launch this series, the Elevate series, to me, you did a bunch of things, and it was all related to purpose. It was, okay, pivot, got to figure out what's happening next. And the greatest thing I can do right now is help other people. And I think we see that in a lot of people. I love all the creativity, the artists, the musicians, the different people who are saying, look, I used to charge you $125 to come to a concert, but I'm going to do something free, because we all need each other right now. And we all can give up a little something of our skill, our talent, our knowledge, whatever that case may be. And I love that you got to the right place, which I think is the right place, but I think it's the natural place. And it's, the top of Maslow's hierarchy, self-actualization, when we recognize that life isn't about us, but what we can do to help other people. And I love what you said, which is the opportunity to wake up every day and feel like you're making a difference in the world is far greater than waking up every day and selling more, X, Y, or Z. You actually have a purpose and a mission and a goal, and you can connect the two, and we will do that because that's the greatest way to sell something. But I think right now we all need to step up for each other and see how can I help by connecting you, as you said, to people, ideas, tools, and thought leaders who can help us all cope with the challenge, find solutions, and get through this in the very best way possible.
That was beautiful.
That's
Ian, go ahead.
I'll do your pitch for you.
You're talking about that connection and that what it means to really make that difference. And I talk quite often about you talk about money being a motivator or not being a motivator or either or. And for me, if I think of every moment in time that's in my memory or in my heart as a tremendous experience, none of it has to do with money. None of it had to do with anything except how I either made somebody feel or how somebody made me feel. And that nobody can steal from me. I couldn't tell you what happened with a bonus I got 10, 15 years ago, but nobody can steal from me the moment that person hugged me in the lobby of the hotel in South Africa when we just did something for them that was so touching. That thing lives in me forever. And that connection, that human connection, to keep quoting your wonderful platform, nobody can steal from you. No one can take from you. And we need a lot more of it, especially the times that we're in right now. To quote this other book I was reading by Christy Ling, there's no app for happiness. You can't go to your phone and push this app and I'm going to be happy today. It's, it really comes down to three main fundamentals about, changing your view or your outlook on life and how you're going to, what motivates you, how you're going to wake up in the morning. Am I going to get up now at 5 a.m. and do something different? And what are the new habits that I'm going to create? It's one of my favorite expressions. If you always do what you've always done, you always get what you've always got. Let me say it again. If you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you always got. So don't be surprised 2 or 3 years go by and I think, geez, I haven't moved forward to what I wanted to do. Well, have you changed your habits? Have you changed what you're doing? Have you changed your outlook on life? Because if you always do what you've always done, don't be surprised. But we need to come together. We need to make a lot more human connections. And we need to find, quote, going back to my opening statement, we got to find a lot more love. It's missing. It's slipping.
I agree. You guys are amazing. And I'm going to end it with this. I'm channeling in somebody out there who's saying, you know what? It sounds really nice. It must be nice to live in your world right now where everything's just perfect and beautiful. But over here, I'm stressed. I got laid off. I have no money. I have no job prospects. I'm at risk of losing my mortgage right now. And I am stressed to the core. I can't be out there connecting with people. And there's probably nobody in my audience, but for that person, and this is why it's so important to share content like this, because you never know. One of you viewing right now could share this video, start a watch party, and somebody in your audience might be needing this message right now. So that is the power of sharing. But for that person who needs this message the most, who is scared, if that is you and you are saying, well, that must be really nice for you, but look at all the things happening with me right now. First of all, I feel you deeply and I have compassion for you, and you are not alone. So if you need help, please reach out until somebody helps you, and you can start with me. And I can tell you with 100% confidence that the more you focus on self and the lack and what's not going right, that is energy that could be spent in creating a solution and an opportunity for yourself, truly. And so right now I think there's an opportunity to say, you know what, maybe I don't necessarily believe in this stuff, but maybe I could just go out and do a simple act of kindness and see how it shifts the way I feel. Maybe I could pick up my phone put myself aside for just a moment, all the stress I feel, the rug got pulled out from under me. I didn't do anything wrong. Pick up the phone, send a video message to somebody that you haven't heard of in a while that might be in a better or worse position than you. We don't know. This was the great equalizer. We're all feeling it. Maybe you could write a letter to somebody. Maybe you could just, I don't know what it is, get creative for a moment, but just do a simple act of kindness and notice how you feel inside. Notice if there's a shift. And if you noticed a shift that felt good, then see if you can do another act of kindness and notice how that feels. And all of a sudden you'll be on this repetition and this trajectory that I can certainly guarantee you will change things for you, just as Ian spoke to. So I just want to hold a space for people that are having a hard time hearing the message and letting you know that we hear you too, and we're here for you, no matter what you're feeling in life right now. Pete and Ian, thank you for your wisdom today. You had a great impact on me. It was the best part of my day. I appreciate you both. And, come back into the chat comments, say hi to people if you want to, share it if you want to. This was a great conversation. So thank you for being here with me today.
Thank you so much, Amber. And hey, I'll throw one other thing is for everybody who everything is going well in their lives, maybe it's our opportunity to think about one person that we could reach out to who may be struggling because they've lost a job. Because oftentimes when you're in that situation, it can be challenging to pick up that phone. So whether it's picking up the phone because you're in the situation or it's somebody who recognizes that in somebody else, I think we all have an opportunity to make a difference in the lives of people right now. And to your point, it is the greatest thing that we can do in these challenging times.
Absolutely.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for being on. Go make a difference in the world. We'll see you guys later.